Little River Falls, Little River Canyon. Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. And today I want to talk about a book haul, baby, book haul, June 2025. These are the books, some of the books that I accumulated in the month of June, Y2K25. And I've done a lot of book unboxing videos and book review videos and such as that. But these are some of the honorable mentions, the things I picked up hither and yon and other places too. You know what I mean? All sorts of places, bookstores around the state of Florida, the eBay from authors. We'll see what else. But without any further ado, the first one I want to talk about today, I picked up at a place called Dragon's Den Books in Arcadia, Florida. A neat little town I've never been to, just driving through for work. Stopped in to see what it was all about, if it was a place, scouting, see if it's a place that my wife and I ought to come spend a day or two wandering around, a couple's retreat. I don't know, maybe it will be, maybe it will not be, but coincidentally, there is a place called Dragon's Den Books, and they were open as I was passing through. So I stopped in, and I ended up picking up a book, a neat little store, quaint small store in a quaint small town, but I picked up a book. I had to get it mostly because of the cover, and that is Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. But no, this one is the Berkeley movie tie-in version, and I love movie novelizations. I also love movie tie-ins for movies that I dig, and this one is, for me, a fantastic film. Charlton Heston in The Omega Man, and it was, I love this movie. And I was excited to be able to find a copy with this cover. And it turns out the spine is a little bit faded. Turns out the book is worth a few bucks, not a lot. I saw them on eBay in decent shape, selling for 20 or 30 bucks. So I had the shot and I took it. And I was glad to. Looking forward to it. This one was $23.64 with the tax and all. So it wasn't a steal. It wasn't sale of the century. But it was good enough to take it home, and it is a Berkeley Medallion Edition, August 1971. And I just wanted it. We didn't eat it, we just wanted it. It smells so good, but a lot of these movie tie-ins would have movie stills. This one has an ad for True Blue. True Blue is lower in both tar and nicotine than 99% of all other cigarettes sold, and then also True Green. But that was a neat pickup for me, something I consider to be a neat pickup. Anyway, now moving on, I went to another bookstore. This time was in Gainesville, Florida. And it was a bookstore I didn't even know existed. I happened to be at Subway eating lunch, and I decided for once to say bookstores near me, and lo and behold, there were two that I didn't know were there. Go figure. I decided to stop at one of them, and this one was called Book Gallery West in Gainesville, Florida. And so wandering around that store a little bit, I found a couple of movie novelizations to add to my collection. And the first one is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and it's got a little tape on the spine to offer some sturdiness. Even though the spine was in good shape, somebody sturdied it up, and I'm okay. It's a cheap book. But I collect movie novelizations for movies that I dig, upside down. And I had Star Trek, the motion picture, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and then I had Star Trek 5 and 6 and some of the new ones. I had some of these, but I didn't have this one. The Search for Spock by Vonda McIntyre. Did I say The Search for Spock? The Wrath of Khan, The Wrath of Khan. I don't know, I forget, it's just words, man. By Vonda McIntyre, based on a screenplay by Harv Bennett. And I saw it, and I had to get it to be a movie that I dig. It is a first edition, first print, if it matters, in cheap paperback books with tapes on the spines. But glad to get that one, glad to add it to the collection. So now I know that day weren't no waste, but wait, there's more. I did pick up Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, The Voyage Home, a novel by Vonda McIntyre based on Paramount Pictures' supreme space adventure. And so there it is. There is that novelization for a movie that I dig. And let's see what else is there about it. It's also first edition, first print, first pocket books, printing December 1986. And there's the number line, goes all the way down to 1, indicating it would be a first print. Now, I went some other places and picked up some other things, but now I want to talk to you about a book I bought on the eBay. I've mentioned novelizations and how I dig them. And if there's one thing on this earth that I really dig, it's John Wayne. And novelizations for John Wayne movies are on my list of things that I want to accumulate for my book collection. And here it is, boys. Novelization specialist, that is Cahill, U.S. Marshal. John Wayne, a brand new action-packed Western, a blazing novel by Joe Millard, based on a screenplay by Harry Julian Fink and Rita M. Fink. And there it is. Glad to add another John Wayne novelization to the movie novelization collection. This one is copyright 1973 by Barney Slater. And there she goes, manufactured in the United States of America. So nice. More novelizations. But wait, there's more. I picked up another novelization. This one was not a store, it was not an eBay. It was directly from a publisher. This publisher called Stop the Killer Games, or Stop the Killer something else. Stop the Killer Games. It's a company that makes many movie-related games, like Scream games and Halloween games and Black Friday games, Silent Night, Deadly Night, stuff like that. Board games were so related to the movies. They also occasionally do novelizations. And I showed you a signed limited edition hardcover novelization from them, from Silent Night, Deadly Night by Armando Munoz, based on the 1984 original motion picture screenplay. And that one had the different, more iconic cover, Santa Claus, murderer. But this one is different. This one's got the axe, and it's got a fake sticker right there on the front. It's got the axe. So this was a limited edition soft cover. It's not signed or anything like that. But I had the shot, and I took it. I wanted to add it to the collection. No interior illustrations. It's based on the screenplay by Michael Hickey, with a foreword by Scott Schneid and Dennis Whitehead. And 2023 published there. But I was glad to be able to add this. And pretty soon, later this year in October, there will be another paperback version of this book released. I'm not sure if it'll be larger or this is in between kind of mass market and trade. I don't know what the size will be, but it'll have the movie poster with Santa in the chimney and the scary stuff from Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I added that one to the collection, and glad to. I'll post a link to this Stop the Killer Games, and you can keep up with what they're doing. They got some neat stuff going on, movie-related book tie-in stuff, games and such as that I like. Recently, I read a Scott Carson book, Departure 37, and I did a book review. You can check that out on this channel right here. And that got me interested because I really liked that book. Scott Carson, a.k.a. Michael Koryta. He's got a website, michaelkoryta.com, and Scott Carson is a pseudonym that he writes genre titles that aren't his normal fare. And they sell books there, and you can get them signed from the publisher. Now, one thing I found out when the books arrived, he shipped it in a bubble mailer, not in a box. And a lot of authors do that. I wish authors protected their stuff better, and so it takes a little bit of a beating in the mail. And this one was no different. There's a little bit of damage, a little slight tear in the spine there. The board's slight dings, but nothing too out of whack on it. I wish they did a better job. A lot of the authors do that. though. Although, to be mentioning the positive, I bought stuff from Philip Fracassi, and he shipped them to me in a box. So Philip knows what he's talking about. He's a book collector, though. Maybe that's why. But I bought Lost Man's Lane by Scott Carson, a book I haven't read. And Lost Man's Lane is one of his higher rated books on Goodreads. This is the first edition, first print, trade hardcover from Emily Bestler Books. Lost Man's Lane. I don't fold up that part. I did wrap it in Mylar, the dust jacket. It didn't come that way. And let's see. It's signed Scott Carson. Michael Koryta signed it Scott Carson. And it is the first edition, first print. You can see right there the number line going all the way down to 1. It does have a sewn binding for a trade edition. Not bad. There's limited edition publishers out there with glued bindings. But that's that. I was glad to be able to add a signed book. I also pre-ordered a signed first edition, first print copy of Departure 37, which I read and enjoyed, and that one obviously will be shipped once it's published. So got that to look forward to, which is nice. Now, speaking of buying things from authors and buying things on eBay, which I was earlier, I did both. I bought a couple things from an author on eBay. And that's, I'd say, my favorite author who ever lived on God's green earth, F. Paul Wilson. It's hard to say. Philip Fracassi is one of my favorites also. Can't pick favorites, right? But I had a copy of Soft and Others, but Philip, F. Paul Wilson, that is, was selling a first edition, first print, signed hardcover version of Soft and Others, his first short story collection, on eBay. And so I bought it, and it is in, and let's see, it was his first collection, and let me see a little bit more about it. 16 Stories of Wonder and Dread by F. Paul Wilson, Tom Dory Associates, Tor Horror, New York City, and it was May of 1989, first edition, first print. It's amazing how much different books feel from 1989 compared to today. That paper's thicker, it's got a different texture to it. It also is very yellow, but some things like that do occur over time, and I'm sure that quality paper does not yellow. Smells good though. But let's see, table of contents. What stories, obviously Soft was included, but what other stories are included in F. Paul Wilson's first collection from 2016? It has Author's Note, The Cleaning Machine, Ratman, Lipid Leggin, To Fill the Sea and Air, Green Winter, Be Fruitful and Multiply, Soft, The Last One Mo Golden Oldies Revival, The Years the Music Died, Dat Tevau, which is a short story that plays very closely into the book The Touch, as well as later on into Reprisal, Night World also. Doc Johnson, Buckets, Traps. Traps was made into, I think it was Traps, was made into a short film for the masters of horror back in the early 2000s. It had, I think that was the one. I think it was the one that had, what was his name? The singer Meatloaf was in it. I think that was the one. Anyway, I might be wrong. Muscles, Menage a Trois, which plays into the novel Sibs. I think it was a prequel. It was neat. Cuts, and that is 16 of the stories, all written between 1969 and 1987. And then he had other collections after that we'll look at one of these days, perhaps. Now, back to the subject of buying things from F. Paul Wilson on eBay. I also bought from him The Keep graphic novel. This is the hardcover graphic novel as I try to untape it while preserving the tape so that I can continue to use it on my plastic to hold it closed. This is the graphic novel, a comic of perhaps his most famous book, and that is The Keep. F. Paul Wilson. The Keep. Midworld's going to be redoing the novel in a signed limited edition pretty soon. There's also the Michael Mann film, which wasn't very good, and was very much different than the book. But it is signed here. You can see signed here by the illustrator, and the illustrator Matthew Dowell Smith. Is that right? With cover by Matthew Dowell Smith. So signed by the illustrator. Also, if I can find it here, signed by the author. You got to find it. Signed by the illustrator and the author, F. Paul Wilson. And so let me show you a little bit. Graphic novel is like a comic book, where you turn a movie into a comic, or turn a book into a comic book. In a case like this, so I'll show you some of the artwork in here. Hey, you can read it. We'll go let you read along. Let's see what Glaken looks like. See back here somewhere? Glaken. Anyway, we'll show you some of the pages, some of the artwork. Really cool stuff. Glad to have a signed edition. I've got several versions of this graphic novel. A couple softcover versions. I have an unsigned hardcover version, but now I've got a hardcover version. And one more thing I want to show you. If you're still here, if you're still watching, we'll put that away later. Do that on your own time, bud. One of my favorite authors on God's green earth is a fellow by the name of Joe R. Lansdale. Ever hear of him? Well, he wrote a series of books called Hap and Leonard series, the first one being Savage Season. And they made 3 seasons of a show, Hap and Leonard. Fabulous show, starring James Purefoy as Happy, one of the characters in the book. And then his friend, Leonard Pine. Fantastic book. A fantastic series of books. I've read, I think, 7 of them so far. And I don't know, there's 12, 13, 14 of them. Fixing to come to an end is what Joe says. He's got 1 or 2 more perhaps, and I think he's going to wind up that series and call it a day. There's only so much you can do with a couple of characters. As much of a character as they can be, there's only so much you can do. But one of the books in the series was called Rusty Puppy. And so Gauntlet Press did a signed limited edition of Rusty Puppy. And I had the numbered edition. But the lettered kept calling me. Wasn't much different than the numbered. The lettered, the numbered edition had a glued binding. I think the numbered edition has a Smithsonian binding. The lettered has a built-in ribbon page marker. The lettered is leather bound, leatherish, I don't know, leather bound. It still has the artwork, which just wasn't that fantastic. Anyway, but the reason why I wanted the lettered edition, even though I had the numbered edition, there's the illustrated end papers that match the dust jacket artwork, is because the lettered edition, and this is letter R of 52 lettered copies, the lettered edition is signed by Joe R. Lansdale. It's also signed by actor James Purefoy, who plays Hap in the Hap and Leonard series. So I liked him a lot in the series. I liked Leonard Pine's, the actor that played Leonard Pine as well. Fantastic stuff. Other than that, really, it's a very trade edition. No interior illustrations. The paper feels like that Soft and Others book that I had there. The paper feels exactly the same. If my eyes were closed, I would have thought I was holding that book. It doesn't smell like an old book though. But I was wanting that. Mostly slight upgrade over the numbered, but I wanted the James Purefoy signature. And it's not like I was just going to bump into him somewhere and get him to sign my book. I liked it. Now, if I ever do bump into him, I want to get him to sign the first 3 books in the series for which the first 3 seasons of that show were based. That is Savage Season, Mucho Mojo, and the Two Bear Mambo. Very good books. Very good series. I suggest you check them all out. But that being said, that is my June 2025 book haul. There was more, and I showed it to you. And with that being said, I can think of no more lies to tell, so thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it, and c'est la vie, baby. Dude.